to happen this weekend. So it's not just about contract extensions and signings and who replaces who that we're going to be talking about here. There is also a motor race. And that has been the case, Kunal, for the second consecutive weekend because last week we were only talking about Sonny Hayes and his terrible ways of winning Formula One races. And this weekend, we're going to count how many journalists were present at Max Verstappen's media scrum. Because I just got this photo from our social media manager, Uttara, and it's a phenomenal picture. And she sent it at just the right time. I'm looking at upwards of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 35 people. Is that normal for a driver to have that many people at their media scrum? You're just seeing the photo that I'm seeing.
I'll tell you what I am seeing. Okay. There are actually 33 drivers or 33 media people out there to meet driver who will actually race for car 33 next year if he doesn't win the world championship this year. But this picture reminds me of the 2019 Belgian Grand Prix. I was there in that very area, the Red Bull Energy Station, and guess who was the driver who had similar number of people out there? It was Pierre Gasly. He was demoted. He was leaving, and then all of us, like swarm of bees on that little piece of honey that you'd probably see or something. And poor Pierre Gasly, I mean, he was extremely distraught. But anyway, I think it's expected, right? There's a race this weekend. There is a contract to be signed. There is a seat available at Mercedes, or
Is
so they
there?
think. There is, right? Because George has not gotten an extension yet. And I think it's only fair we spend a large part of this episode talking about what's actually happening with Max Verstappen. What do you think, Somal?
I think so too. But before we spend a large part of this episode speculating about who goes where or who initiated this or what it could mean and how things could end up and whether Verstappen will be racing in 26 at all or not, we should do our due diligence and remind you folks to subscribe to the Inside Line F1 podcast because we forget. We genuinely do. We believe you love our content so much, which you do, because 90% of you stay to the very end, that we don't need to remind you to subscribe and to press the bell notification and to share and to do all the good stuff and even comment for that matter, which you can do live, by the way, on this episode. But our producer Sarang often makes it a point to remind us because yeah, it's just stuff that you have to do. Part of the hygiene, part of the important things you must complete on every race weekend. We don't really think about it as much because we're so involved in the flow. But we trust you, everyone. We trust you to be a part of this journey. The fact that you're showing up with us, the fact that you're interacting in such large numbers and consistently making your voices heard, which is what we love the most here. We trust that you will do all the good stuff. So thank you. And this is the first of multiple episodes this week. We'll do a quali roundup and the race roundup as well. So stay tuned. But to the point, this Kunal is not unprecedented. I believe that if this move does go down, it will match the scale of rather it will match the shock of Lewis moving to Ferrari. If not the hype of it actually happening, because of course Ferrari and Mercedes two different entities. But if it does go down, I think the shock value globally will be the same because Verstappen in my head is as big a legend as Lewis Hamilton is, and the impact just a mental image of Verstappen and Red Bull that has stuck in our heads for 11 years now. Can you believe it?
Yeah, wow. And before that, when he did Toro Rosso and Formula Regional Europe, whatever he was racing. But you said something very interesting. Do all the good stuff, which is what you're asking our viewers to do. That's probably what Mercedes is asking Max Verstappen to do, saying, do all the good stuff, sign on the dotted line. That's what Red Bull Racing is asking Max Verstappen to do, which is do all the good stuff, retain your services because you are under contract till 2028. But here's what I love about Max Verstappen. Okay, he's very unFormula One like, right? What do I mean by that? There are drivers who'll say, yeah, the guys and girls in the factory have done so well. We are trying to bounce back as a team and whatever. But
Yeah.
Max is the opposite. I just need the fastest car available. If it's you, I join your team. If it's she, I join her team. I just love driving. Please don't give me this BS about teamwork and stuff. Yes, it is important. Yes, I'll build the team. Yes, I'll be loyal to you, but I just need a fast car. If you have a fast car, I'm loyal to you. If you don't, I'm going elsewhere, which is which is how Formula One drivers have been in the past, Soumil. You know your history
Yeah.
better than I do. I mean, yes, this whole corporatization of Formula One is hype, teamwork and being loyal to teams, etc. That is critical, right? Teamwork is critical. But here comes a driver like Max, and he knows that he is that individual making a difference. And he's not wanting to get drowned in, yeah, but it's a team. Yes, there is a team. But yeah, it's me who's extracting those lap times and winning you those races and world championships.
Like Lewis Hamilton said to Toto Wolff in Drive to Survive, you've got more years than I do, and I've got to use those years wisely. So I don't blame Max. Would you ever blame him for wanting to go to a more prepared team? You can never do that. He's just evaluating his options. But then I'm going to flip the script, Kunal, because here we're all assuming it's Mercedes making contact with the Verstappens. But are we really sure it's not the other way around?
Okay, let's break it down. It's a very good point. It's a very good point. So in 2014, Max was talking to Red Bull and to Mercedes. It's known, it's public. It's not me saying it. It's there. He chose Red Bull because Red Bull gave him a faster path to Formula One, which is what Red Bull does, right? Gives you wings, as
Yep.
opposed to Mercedes, who said, "Yeah, you'll do this, and then you'll do that, then you'll go to Williams, and then you'll become a Mercedes Formula One driver."
At which point, if the world champion is available, we'll probably kick you out of the team.
Because that's what's happening to George Russell, right?
Exactly.
George followed the whole Mercedes principle and whatever, and then he's probably going to make way for Max. So we don't know. Anyway, we'll come to that, right? But crucially, so this is where Max has always been in conversation, or his team, Raymond Vermeulen. And my daughter loves his name because Vermeulen is also a color, and we were learning colors some couple of years ago, and she's like, "Oh, Vermeulen," and I'm like, "Yeah, you got to remember that name. Maybe he's going to manage you at some point when you're older. He's been around forever, Raymond." But it's normal, it's natural for everyone to speak to everyone in the paddock, and you know. It happens in Formula 2, it happens in Formula 3. Of course, it happens even more so in Formula 1. So that's what's been happening. And I think the premise of this, Sawmill, lies on two very interesting points, and let's scratch our motorsport brains here as we go along. The first is Helmut Marko has been saying, and he said it on our podcast as well. Max will stay so long as we give him a quick car. So that's number one.
Hmm.
Okay. Do you think Red Bull has a quick car in 2025?
No.
You don't think so?
Black and white, no.
So what's a
Not
quick
okay.
car in Formula 1?
A quick car. That's a great question to ask. A quick car, in my opinion, depends on the caliber of the drivers. If you're Max Verstappen, a quick car is very different to you
No, no,
than.
no. You're getting very theoretical. Does Red Bull have a quick car in 2025?
No, they
Yes or
don't.
no? In the hands
No,
of
they
Max
don't.
Verstappen?
No, they don't.
Okay.
Because in Formula One, Kunal, you and I both know, we only call a quick car the World Championship winning car. Like that's a quick car. Like, would the Ferrari of 2012 be a quick car? No, it would not. Like, Fernando Alonso was quick, but the car was not. So,
That's a good point. My view is any car that allows you to compete for podiums and pole positions consistently is a quick car. And largely, Red Bull has been a quick car this year, largely across conditions, across circuits. It's not that Red Bull suddenly needs a cooler car, or cool conditions or track conditions are different, or they
well,
need a
yes, yeah.
particular type of corners. Of course, street circuits they've struggled at, and so on. But I would say, for example, compared to the Ferrari, the Red Bull's a quicker car. Compared
Yep.
to Mercedes, the Red Bull's a quicker car. Compared to Alpine, Sauber, I'm not even going to go through that whole list. So the only car that Red Bull is not consistently quick against is McLaren. I think you and I agree with that.
Yeah. But the
Yeah.
margin is scary.
The margin is scary. That's true. But when you go to circuits like Suzuka, when you go to circuits like Imola, where even the Red Bull is actually as quick or can get quicker with driver changes, or driver inputs, we've seen what Max is able to pull out. So I would say yes, the Red Bull's not the quickest car, but I think it's a quick car. I mean, you know, Think about Alpine. I mean, Max getting stuck in an Alpine or Pierre Gasly getting stuck in an Alpine. Valtteri Bottas might just get stuck in their Alpine. Anyway, the premise here is Red Bull needs to give a quick car to Max, and we need somebody from Max's team or Red Bull Racing to come and tell us what exactly is a quick car.
Because that is the bone of contention. The whole exit clause drama is how quick is a quick car, basically.
And I'll go the other way as well. Like, this whole thing of a quick car, you said exit clause. Of course, the clauses are all also about points, right? You're
Yeah.
so many points off the leader, so you're not in a quick car. But what's a quick car? I mean, to be in the top 3, top 5
Oh
of a world
man.
championship on a podium, that's a quick car, I would say. And Red Bull needs to come out and say that Max is in the battle. The Sarika, yes, we've been waiting for this week's episode as well. I wasn't there last time. I got some penalty points for it. But anyway, so my point is, I think this is a quick car. Now, the question is, Soumil, who will have a quick car in 2026? Take a wild guess.
The one who's able to match their simulation tools to real life performance, and the one with the most consistent, reliable, and high performing engine package. Now, there's a lot. I know there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack with that. There's a lot to unpack with that. But at this point in time, Gunal, I think 90% of us, including people within the paddock, can only see one certainty, which might not even be a certainty at all. It's that Mercedes will not be inconsistent. And that's what history has proven us. Be it the switch from V10s to V8s or V8s to V6s, Mercedes Benz have consistently delivered. And that is something that has to be acknowledged. So maybe Max's perspective here, and again, this is assuming that Max is the one initiating contact, which I strongly believe can be the case.
We'll come to that. We'll come to that. But go
Yeah.
on, build what you're saying about Mercedes,
Yeah.
because that's very valid.
Exactly. The whole point is you go to a team that is most prepared. And for sure, you might get a very good Red Bull racing team, but they're building their power unit for the very first time. And niggles can happen. I'm not saying that they will be terrible. I'm not saying they'll be number one. But as a driver, certainty is something you're chasing when you're committing to a long term contract. So maybe that's what Max is looking for, like some stability.
So you actually nailed it, because next year, not even 90, I would say 100% of the paddock doesn't know who's going to have a quick car. It could well be Audi, for all we know, with Binotto and Wheatley out there. Okay.
I would be going crazy if that's the case. But
And that's the beauty of rule changes. You never know who's going to get quick. So what is Max doing? Max is banking his brand name, his talent. He's building life insurance, or career insurance in Formula One. He's saying, I know Red Bull's going to wait for me. I know they've not found a replacement for me. They've been trying since 2018. They are not going to be asking me to go. So what am I going to do? Can I look at what's 2026 going to be like with Red Bull, but also block a seat with Mercedes for 2027, because still Lewis is at Ferrari. I'm not going to get Ferrari. McLaren, Zach Brown's been preaching Norris and Piastri, and Max is like, fine, do your thing. I will go to other teams and beat your guys. Okay.
I don't think Max would even fit in the current McLaren culture. I don't think he will.
But that's Max. He will go and change that culture.
Fair enough.
you know and so Max is like, Zach, you've told me I'm a lucky world champion. I'm going to beat you and prove you said you have your two drivers. I'm going to go wherever I can go and beat you. I've beaten you at Red Bull. Now I'll go to Mercedes and I'll beat you at Mercedes. So that's probably where they're all going to go. But you're right. So nobody knows what's happening in 2026, which is where I love that Max is saying, you know what, I'll block a seat at Red Bull and I'll block a seat at Mercedes as well.
Yeah.
Let both teams work extremely hard to win my services. And I love that. I mean,
And that's
who wouldn't want that? I mean, you're at a job today. You don't know if you want to be there in that job 15 months later. So you've gone to a competitor and said, if you build something interesting, I'll come to you. Forget the money. We've all made enough money. We will make enough money of this. And I love that. And I don't necessarily think this conversation is for 2026.
yeah.
That's my reading. You said who made contact? Yes, in all probability, this time the contact was reinitiated by the Verstappen camp. Maybe they had a conversation earlier in the year. Let's see halfway through the season where we go, and then have a contact again. I mean, Jos and Toto don't speak to each other anymore. That's what we've been told, but they've been close buddies before. And at the end of the day, one's got a fast car, one's a fast driver. They will find a way to work with each other. So my reading is this is going to put Red Bull under a lot of pressure to correct a lot of things. And the Checo Perez interview that came out. Okay. Kush is asking, Soumil, your thoughts on the F1 movie? We'll come to that. But anyway, uh,
This is just as dramatic, my friend.
yeah,
This
this
is
is
just
this
as
is this is
dramatic.
real life stuff, scripted, unscripted, whatever you call it, right?
In a
But
word. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know, where was I? I
Yeah.
missed my train of thought. But yeah, so the whole conversation goes back to who's got a quick car in 26. Nobody knows. I think the pressure is also on Red Bull. I was saying, yeah, the Checo Perez interview where he said, everything went awry after Adrian Newey left. I think this is also a very orchestrated attack on Red Bull. Checo Perez spoke, Ricardo spoke, George Russell spoke, Max Verstappen spoke, all about Max leaving, things not working at Red Bull, etc. And I get this feeling this is also a hangover of the power struggle that we saw at Red Bull Racing last season. Sommel, was it last year, year before last,
Yeah.
whatever, year
Last
before last,
year before. No, no, last
last year.
February-ish.
Yeah.
Because 23 was when Mr. Mattis left us. So that's when, like, sort of Feb, Jan, that's when everything started to unravel. Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And I'm now thinking of Alain Prost now. And you might be thinking, why is this guy always thinking of Alain Prost? I always am thinking of Alain Prost. But 93, when he came back, he was on sabbatical in 92. And in that year, of course, Nigel Mansell did end up winning the world championship. But even then, Williams' eyes were on one Max Verstappen. Sometimes, even though you have a great driver within your ranks, there's always someone better out there. And sometimes you've got to be ruthless. Now, Williams were lucky in Nigel's case that he wanted to go to IndyCar and he felt that he had nothing to prove anymore, which which is exactly what ended up happening. But even Damon Hill got sacked immediately after he won the world championship. So George Russell has not done much, in my opinion, in comparison. He is great. He's phenomenal. He, I believe, will be a firm world championship contender at some point. World champion or not depends on many circumstances, but he's got everything it takes to fight for one. And that is, in my opinion, I think you're one step away from being a Formula One legend at that point. But he's got it all. But Damon Hill won a world championship and got sacked that very winter. This is Formula One, my friends. This is how ruthless the sport is. Don't be surprised if George Russell actually ends up losing out on his seat. That's just how the sport is. What are you going to do about it? It's happened before.
But I'm going to flip that switch a little bit. I don't think it's George Russell who's going to lose his seat. George has come out to the media and said, I'm actually managed by Mercedes, which is true. Him
Which is
being
true.
a
He
part,
is.
he's got Gwen LeGroux, who've been trying to, we've been trying to trying for the last 2 years to get onto the podcast. The Mercedes driver manager and junior driver program head manages George Russell, also manages Esteban Ocon, as we know, and
Oh, miss because Ocon never really got there, and
yeah, right. But they
they,
still manage him. He's a member of the Mercedes management crew. Anyway, so George Russell has come out in the press today and said, well, I know where I'm going to drive next year. It's not me they're talking of, hinting that it could be Kimi Antonelli. Before we go to Antonelli, and before we go back to the F1 movie, which actually, Kush, you can go back to the last 2-3 episodes. We've spoken a lot about it. But I have a feeling Kimi Antonelli has not been as impressive as everyone was hoping he would be. And what do I mean
I
by not
think,
impressive? Has he
yeah.
shown as much caliber as Max did in his debut season at Toro Rosso? Has he shown as much caliber as Lewis Hamilton did in his debut season at McLaren? Or is he just another, I don't know, Nico Hulkenberg? I mean, sorry, I know I have a great
Nico's
bond with him.
incredible. Nico's incredible. But
But
yeah,
that's
but
but
the
not
point
on the
remains.
podium.
The
Not
point
not
remains.
not on
Yeah.
the podium. Not a race winner. Not the he's a midfield driver. Is Antonelli the next Checo Perez, for example?
Well, you have a point. You do have a point. And Max, the sad thing about it is you cannot include Max in the discussion because just of how good his junior career was, in the sense that he barely ever did as much F1 testing, but still smashed it out of the park when he came here. So Max is a different debate. I think there's not been a more impressive start to Formula One than his. Lewis got some testing time. He was with McLaren over the winter, and yeah, Kimi has gotten a lot of time as well, but I think things are very, very different nowadays. But you're right, he's not been as impressive. But that's down to people, not down to Kimi, because I think people have expected too much out of him. Instead of and by those people, I don't mean us. I mean the people at the top of the team, because their expectations of him hence allow us to set our expectations of him. Because had Kimi not been given the Mercedes seat, we wouldn't have expected as much from him. Maybe we would have expected, say, something similar to what we expected from George Russell in 2019. And we were very impressed of him, even though he did not score a single point, but his teammate Robert Kubica did, because we saw what he was doing throughout the season. So it's the expectations that the Mercedes camp have themselves placed on him, which is astronomical. And then the fact that they're even considering, or if they would be even considering, to let him go now. I hate using the F word, but that would absolutely F with his career and his mind and his personality and his life. You, it puts a tag on you. Like, and
Would
sure,
would 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 another F1 team hire Antonelli if
sure they
Mercedes
would.
was to drop him? Who? Williams? They've got settlement there. McLaren, the other Mercedes team. Alpine? You think?
Yeah, I mean they'll hire anyone at this point, but that's one. Perhaps Aston Martin if they're looking to build something for the future,
I
which
mean,
might.
imagine Aston Martin wanting Max Verstappen and signing Antonelli with Lance Stroll. My problem is I don't know. Of course, it's only been 11 races, but I don't know if Antonelli has has had the impact on other 11 teams. And I say 11 because from next year you could have 11th team,
You're actually very right about
or
that.
10 teams. So I don't know where Max, so Antonelli would go. And my reading of this situation has always been that Antonelli has been Toto Wolff's ego project. I think I have found a junior driver. Good. I missed out on Max. I'm going to just accelerate this driver. But hey, if I actually get Max, who's always been my target, do I consider caring about the others? I don't know. I'm just hypothecating, whatever we call it. Sadhana is here. I cannot fathom the reason why F1 has been hidden for so long from the general masses, the nuances, the drama, the mess. I presume she
Exactly.
means I presume she means the whole Max Verstappen saga, which is finally breaking up in front of us. And Sarang, our producer, has of course said, whoever loses the Mercedes seat, Drive to Survive wins. But he's also said something else which is very interesting. When I asked you what exactly qualifies as a faster car, and Sarang says any car that romances the tailpipes of the one in front is a quick car. Of course,
Which
this
is
is
a very
courtesy of
valid point.
Horner's son.
It- it's a very valid point. And Red Bull Racing are precisely not doing that. They're 30, 40 seconds away, sometimes half a second away in qualifying. That is, in my opinion, not a fast car. Because in Formula One, the only thing that's fast is the car that's in P1. And that's where you all want to be. Which, oh my word. Yeah, oh. Do you think we should also. Yeah, yeah, one second. Let me compose my thoughts. At the start of this episode, 23 minutes ago, we said that there is also a motor race to talk about. And we've not spoken about that motor race for the following 23 minutes. So, do you think it's a good time, Kunal, to also talk about how quick that Red Bull might be this weekend? Because I believe if there's any place where they're going to be good, it's here.
I believe if there's any place where Mercedes is going to be good, it's this.
Oh,
The
yeah.
cooler conditions. Mercedes's pre-event release, the first thing it says is the cooler conditions at Silverstone will help us. And we've seen how they won here last year with Lewis. So if Mercedes wins and Red Bull is all over the place, I think I'd love to see what actually sort of happens. But Sarika is asking, what is romancing a tailpipe?
Without being too graphic, just sort of
W-
making.
ye- yeah, PG-13, as Sarang tells us in a years, he said making love to the tailpipes, if that's the way to put it. That's what probably Oscar Piastri was trying to do to Lando Norris's car, just romancing in the dirty air. Wow, that's also sounding fantastic.
Hey,
You know,
by
two
that
drivers.
logic, the 2014 Toro Rosso should be the most romantic Formula One car in the world. And now I will let your imagination do the talking. I will not tell you anything else apart from that. And
When
no,
Formula One cars had adult noses, let's just leave it at that.
adult noses, they had genital noses. Because I remember that year, the
But
Lotus.
yeah, yeah, go for it. Yeah,
We're
yeah.
not even going to talk about. We're not going to go there. Okay. Yeah, 2014 cars were interesting. Let's just put it that way. But no, you're right about that, though, Kunal. Cooler conditions, genuinely, Mercedes should be much better. And remember, 12 months ago, we said that Lewis Hamilton is leaving Ferrari at the wrong time because Mercedes are finally coming good, and they came good at his home race, which is why he won. So the the last time that Mercedes actually, in fact, that was Lewis Hamilton's last race win. Yeah, Lewis Hamilton last won a race here 12 months ago in Silverstone, and we all know he has a ninth gear around here. And you're right, Kush. I hadn't watched the movie in the last stream. I have now. I find it to be all right. I think the cheating part could have been done away with, genuinely. And I wanted more of the cinematography and the visuals because when you have a circuit as beautiful as Silverstone, which we all saw in the movie, you just want to see more onboard laps. You want to listen to the engine noise. You want to see drivers go flat out there. And you want to see real racing, which I think we didn't see enough of. But does the job, gets the money. People are talking about it. More fans are coming to talk about Formula One. Fans are cheering. They're wearing their merchandise. They're showing their support, which is exactly what they will be doing this weekend. But yeah, now the point, Kunal. What colors will the Silverstone faithful be wearing? Will they be wearing red for Lewis? Will they be wearing black for their home team, Mercedes, who also have a home driver in George Russell? Will they be wearing orange for Lando? Like, what do you do now if you're going to, if and by the way, if all of you folks are going to Silverstone, let us know what color you're wearing to Silverstone because we're all genuinely confused.
Yeah, I mean, or just wear the inside line colors and go, guys. Represent us and see where it goes and how it sort of lands up. But Silverstone, we should talk of how iconic this circuit is. 75 years since Formula One started racing here in the 1950s, or not 1950s, in 1950.
Yeah.
And I think there isn't a circuit as iconic as Silverstone. I would say, well, you know,
Permanent circuit. Permanent circuit.
permanent circuit, right? And we've gone from one of the shortest circuits on the calendar in Austria to I think the fifth longest. So 4.3 kilometers in Austria. I think it's about 5.89 at Silverstone. Spa is longer. I'm sure Baku is longer. Las Vegas is longer. Maybe one of the new ones in Jeddah is longer, or as much. And
Las
you know,
Vegas is
here
sixth.
are
Yeah.
some fun. Here are some fun facts which always get debated. The Silverstone has got all these iconic names: Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, etc. And some people say that engineers and drivers do not refer to Silverstone with turn numbers. They use names. Some engineers say that's
Yes.
BS. We just stick to numbers everywhere because that's the standardized way of doing things. But let's see. I mean, if we let me ask a few people around. But Silverstone also has, like, I think 80-82% or something of that full throttle that's taken. Lots of lateral G forces because of the high speed cornering that we get to see. And we were talking, you were mentioning Mercedes, how quick they'll be. What I love about Mercedes is they have 8 wins at Silverstone since they returned to the sport in 2010, right? And I think they've also had a podium in each of the last 12 seasons. That's how quick
I
they've
have a
been.
I have a
Ut-
question on that.
yes.
Before we go there, and Uttara's put in a very good comment. Has Nico Rosberg or Valtteri Bottas ever won the British GP? I don't recollect it. Do you?
Mm, I can check. I can check.
Because I think all of those wins have been Hamilton wins. My memory could be messing around with me, and if it is, you guys should let us know down in the comments because yes, we have followed the sport a lot, but we're not encyclopedias. We're not F1 stats guru. Not all of us are. Some of you might be better at remembering things than we are. But yeah, are they all Hamilton wins? And Uttara has very nicely pointed out the comment we just saw on our screen. Hamilton has been on the Silverstone podium since 2014, and Ferrari must show up to this party. Well, for unfortunately for them, Silverstone isn't the most curb heavy circuit, even though we have black and white curbs here. which means that their ride height advantage, or rather their ride smoothness advantage, probably might not be on display here. And that ride smoothness advantage is why they were so good in Monaco, and they're not so good in other places because they have to ride high, downforce isn't there, car isn't as good. Of course, there's an upgrade, and it has made them quicker. And I do get a feeling they might be the. Where do you reckon they might be, Kunal? Where do you reckon they might be? Because Silverstone is one of those places where, sure, the Ferrari upgrade will help them out. But as we discussed, Red Bull behind the wheel of Max, who's incredible around here, Mercedes with cooler temperatures, and McLaren, who have generally been the dominant force. Who are you putting your money on? I can't take a bet.
I think it's difficult to not put money on McLaren at any race this season. I think they're always, which is always interesting. Kush reminds us Pirelli's gone with the C2, 3, and 4, which is a step
Yes.
softer than last year, which will make things interesting again. I get a feeling around Silverstone. But yeah, my money will be on McLaren, definitely, and I think on Mercedes as well. I think Mercedes also got like 8 consecutive pole positions with Hamilton, Rosberg, and Valtteri Bottas in 2013 till
Wow.
2020. George Russell's first single-seater race win came at Silverstone. It was Formula Renault in 2014, and Kimi Antonelli's first F2 win came at Silverstone last year under tricky conditions. So Antonelli will be also eager to prove us even more, about the whole conversation. Has he really impressed the other 10 teams in Formula One? But yeah, I think it's always a very, very interesting circuit. Lots of history. I think Formula One was invited to 10 Downing Streets.
Yes.
I think I love it when politicians are getting involved in Formula One. Donald Trump was there, and the British Prime Minister. They've had lots of prime ministers in the last several years. Pardon me for not remembering his name, but
Car Starmer or something. Yeah. Kier
something.
Kyer. Yeah, something. Yeah.
All that matters is they were there. The cars were on display. McLaren's been doing things at Trafalgar Square, and in general, there's a lot of content around Formula One. I mean,
Yes.
the Cadillac F1 team that is yet to do anything in Formula One has already signed a docu series with Keanu Reeves on showing people what
Exactly.
it takes to start a Formula One team, right? So, but Rajesh has an interesting question. You guys watched Mercedes' team YouTube handle
I
the
did.
new video Road to
It
2026
was
episode 1.
rubbish.
It feels like they're enticing Max. Wow, I'm yet to see all that. But thank you for that
No,
comment.
my attention span dipped halfway through the video. It was like 2.5 minutes, and they're still telling me about 2010. I was there, buddy. I know. I've been through that journey. You don't need to tell me about the past or tell me about the future. Tell me, what are you doing? What tools are you adding on? What new people are you hiring? What's the major challenge? And my attention span is short. I dropped it. But yeah, they are trying to entice Max. Of course, that's the same thought I had when I saw that thumbnail as well, which is why I clicked it and I got baited eventually.
But
Kush has a
I have
question.
I have a story about this. This is
Give
a
a
year
That's a
blocker.
year blocker.
Uh, uh, I was at the Circuit Dijon. I'm on holiday there. That's why I'm in a hotel room. Circuit Dijon in Paris. Well, in France, 3 hours from Paris. Bumped into a female race driver called Fabienne. I can't say her last name for uh,
Fabian Wohlwend.
Volvent. And I just said she races in the Indian Racing League. And I'm like, yeah,
She
Soumil Arora,
does.
I'm going to do a live stream with him. And she's like, of course, who doesn't know Soumil? So then she invited Antara to the racetrack. We went there yesterday. Antara got a chance to sit in a car, put a name on a pit board, etc., etc. So lots of fun
Wow.
moments between the races as well. Always at a racetrack. That's the life we love to live. But yeah, maybe at some point, maybe after Silverstone, we are also going to try and do something interesting. But before we end this episode, Somil, are we going to see another title defining moment at Silverstone?
Yeah, we already had a title defining moment, which has defined our title, that there is more to this weekend than just the contract signing. Yeah, but in all honesty, I think so, because the best part about Silverstone is you can race here. Ask Mansell and PK, ask Hamilton and Rosberg, ask Alonso and Vettel, don't ask Verstappen and Hamilton. They won't tell you that. But you can race here. You genuinely can. And we have seen recently that the McLaren cars have been very close to each other, which means they are going to race. Which means Until the first person locks up, we are going to see a phenomenal battle, which could mean the title could be defined here. I'm so excited. I'm genuinely so excited.
And as with the 11 races we've seen this year, I'm curious to know what sort of Lando Norris will show up. He said the one race he wants to win the most is, of course, British Grand Prix. I think for a British driver, winning with a British team at home is iconic, etc. But will Lando show up as the Lando who we saw in Austria and Monaco? And forget Monaco, I don't really. I mean, yes, he put it on pole, but I think the Lando we saw in Austria was fantastic. Maybe Australia as well. Maybe he
Mm,
needs us. Maybe he needs circuits that sound similar. Australia, Austria, whatever. You know, we play the Capitals game with my daughter, and she often mistakes one for the other. But
rookie
you know,
mistake happens to
yeah, yeah.
everyone. We've all
You
been
know,
there.
so what kind of Lando will show up? You know, that's the key thing. And will he you know, the consistency that Oscar Piastri's had, whether he's got a car, he's feeling properly or not, top three every race. But Lando's waiting for that feel, and when he's got the feel, he's, you know, a couple of tenths ahead of Oscar, which is what he's been last season and the season before last. So I'm eager to see what sort of Lando shows up, and how Oscar sort of reacts, because Oscar said, you know, the 22-point gap means nothing. All it means is three races. I finished second to Lando, and Lando's caught up. One of those three races are done.
Exactly.
So that's something to look out for. Lots of interviews of Max we'll look out for as well. How he sort of keeps saying nothing but saying much, giving away much. Because the one thing everyone's asked him is, are you going to so race at Red Bull 2026 or not? He's not coming out and saying yes. He's going all around the place and, you know, giving, I don't know, feeding into Netflix, if that's the way to put it. But Alpine could be heading for yet another driver swap. Valtteri Bottas, after they sort of did not sign him last year, might finally get there. Williams needing a fix, because that Mercedes engine has failed three times in Alexander Albon's car. Okay. And this is after Albon continued to make sure that he was really good in qualifying. Because where did Albon, you know, he was 11th in Spain, he was 10th in Canada, and then he was 12th in Austria. Again, not
Yeah.
bad places to be. So it's all about where does Albon lined up, and will the Mercedes engine fail? That's another key question.
But I have to shout out a journalist who I love a lot. Not like dramatically, but his work I love a lot. Scott Mitchell from the race. He's excellent, and he's put out a phenomenal piece. He said it once. He's put out an amazing piece, or a brilliant, or fantastic, or yeah, it's an inside joke we're doing here. But his piece was amazing. He spoke about the genuine issues that Williams are facing, and James Vowles also commented on it. There are cooling issues. Now, the cooling issues have been repetitive on Albon's car for three consecutive races. The catch is the issues are only being identified on track. And James Wald says that our simulation tools are not good enough to catch those issues before they make it to the circuit, which is where Williams are right now. And so they're reacting to the problem instead of preemptively analyzing it in the CFD or wind tunnel or whatever. And I'm not sure you can do cooling issues in wind tunnel, because he said the aero side is okay. It's something mechanical that's going wrong there. But whatever it is, in the process of designing the car, they don't have the necessary tools to be able to spot that issue. So they have to wait until the car comes onto the circuit. And once it comes onto the circuit, you are reacting to the issues that pop up, which is where Williams are. And there's no quick fix to it, which is why this weekend might be even scarier for them, because there's not been any time to change things around quickly. And yes, teams do prioritize reliability upgrades, but it takes time to build, takes time to manufacture, takes time to ship out, takes time to homologate and get it on the car. It's a part.
But even Kimi
So,
Antonelli's had these issues as well. So could just be Williams taking the fall for Mercedes' issues. Fernando Alonso had issues as well
you
in the
never know.
last few races. So lots to go. But yeah, so my bold prediction is going to be a Lando Norris win, the title defining win that we're going to see again at home.
I am going the opposite route because I have just seen the weather forecast that Formula One has published. It says Friday 25 degrees, Saturday 22 degrees, and Sunday rainy 20-degree Celsius. And if it's Silverstone and if it's raining, I know who my bet is. It's Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Not Max Verstappen, really? I mean,
Oh,
in the
oh,
rains.
now that you've put it that way, I think it's going to be Verstappen 1, Hamilton 2. No, but Hamilton 1, Verstappen 2, because at all other circuits I would have said Verstappen to win. But as we all know, Lewis Hamilton has a ninth gear, at Silverstone, and he will use it to win, in my opinion. But what are your
But
thoughts, everyone?
Max needs just 8 gears to win whichever circuit. Doesn't matter. Isn't that also true?
You're like an angel. You're like God coming without being seen, but just telling us the voice of reason in our ears. And it makes sense because Verstappen's eighth gear is better than anyone's 10th gear in the rain, especially. I'm just hoping for someone to say a line like, it's just luck, not talent. And then we have another story to sort of weave around. But anyway, 40 minutes. We've been on for a long time. Let's end, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to the Inside Line F1 podcast. And as Lil has now pointed out, I hope it's Little Baby, Little Yachty, or whoever. I love the name Little. He's just said, or She's just said, or they've just said, watch Max's live interview on Sky Sports. You must do that. And also make sure you watch our post qualifying stream on the Inside Line F1 podcast. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. We will catch you, everyone, on Saturday evening. Bye bye.